So maybe you're just getting to know someone, or maybe you just started dating someone and you suspect that they have a dismissive avoidant attachment style. In this video, I'm going to share with you some pretty big North Stars in conversation with this person that will point to them having a dismissive avoidant attachment style. Of note, it is important to remember that people are individuals and some of these may apply more than others. Real quick, if you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Sarah Whaling and I'm a certified life, trauma, and relationship coach, and I help people heal insecure attachment styles of all types and become securely attached, targeting where trauma is stored in our subconscious and unconscious mind. I tailor personalized plans for my clients to heal insecure attachment styles, healing from childhood trauma, heal wounds from relationships early in life or later in life with individuals with personality disorders that were damaging, and heal everyday pain points. If this is of interest to you, please fill out a contact form on my website with a detailed description of what you are interested in working on, and you'll receive a follow-up email which will include my session information. Now back to today's topic. Okay, so common trait number one of a dismissive avoidant in conversation is they will often preemptively warn you about their conversation habits. They might say something along the lines of they're bad at texting or bad at catching up on the phone because they're so busy. Why do they do this? The main reason is because they do not want the pressure of what feels like unreasonable expectations to them, and they don't want inquiry about their habits. Preemptively warning you irons that out in the very beginning. They know they don't want to be texting all day long. They know that there are times they're not going to feel up for responding at all. They know that they've texted less or talked on the phone less in comparison to other people in the past. And they know that there are people that take issue with what their norm is. They just want ease, acceptance, and understanding. So they preemptively warn you about certain conversation habits in order to achieve this. Common trait number two that will point to a dismissive avoidant in conversation is they will go MIA off and on without warning. It might be time for them to take some time to themselves and recharge, or maybe something came up in their life that took their time and energy, but they will not want to have to explain this. Their logic is that it's obvious and okay that they got busy or tied up with something, and you'll just pick right back up in the conversation where you left off when they're able to talk again. If they're feeling like they need time to themselves, they might already be feeling depleted, and the thought of explaining this to someone else is an added layer of energy expenditure that sounds exhausting each and every time. For some dismissive avoidants, it also feels like a commitment that they don't want to have to make to set a precedent of explaining themselves each and every time. This is one of those situations in which they would desire understanding and kind of a go-with-the-flow attitude. Common trait number three that is a signpost that you're talking with a dismissive avoidant is they respond to some parts of what you just said and not others, habitually. This can be subconscious, or it can be conscious as well if the dismissive avoidant doesn't want to share about something for whatever reason. It can be so subconscious and just so habitual that sometimes they won't even notice unless someone points it out, often because the other party thinks the dismissive avoidant is always doing it on purpose. But basically, a dismissive avoidant will internally process what you just sent them if you're texting, or what you just said if you're talking, and they might have some internal response and just respond to other parts of it. When it's super habitual, it's just because they don't even think to share their every single solitary thought. So to them, some parts of the conversation that aren't outright questions don't always warrant a response. To you as the other party, it can seem like they're not acknowledging parts of what you just said, or you might feel disappointed with less of an interaction than you wanted. Common trait number 4 of a dismissive avoidant in conversation is they can be kind of short and snappy if they're in survival mode or if they're triggered or conversation at that moment is making them feel burnt out. Unless they're a people-pleasing DA, they're not going to go out of their way in these moments conversationally, and even then, they would less than other attachment styles. Common emotional patterns for a dismissive avoidant involve feeling low-level anxiety, shame, frustration, annoyance, overwhelm, numbness, irritation, and impatience. So when that is your internal world, being short and snappy in conversation is what would naturally sometimes manifest from that. The fifth thing that I want to talk about in regards to a dismissive avoidant in conversation is you might notice that over time, you've put a decent amount of energy into trying to get to know them, but you still don't feel like you know them all that well. Which brings me to common trait number 6 of a dismissive avoidant in conversation. They don't answer questions you ask. You end up realizing that many or even none of the curiosities you've had about them have been satisfied. Somehow, they have managed to keep a conversation with you going without ever answering, and this is kind of impressive when it's ongoing. Maybe they've even shared a few things of their own free will, but when it comes to your questions, especially over text or messages, they just never acknowledge them and keep talking about other things as if you never asked. This will usually be about things that would nurture deeper connection, things that would require them to allow themselves to be seen and known better. Common trait number 7 in conversations with a dismissive avoidant is they might be passive-aggressive if something is bothering them. Dismissive avoidants do not deal well with conflict. They can work on healthy conflict skills as they become earned secure, but they do not start off with great modeling or any modeling when it comes to conflict skills. It is very common that they grew up in a household in which things were just swept under the rug, or when they got upset about something as a child, they were shamed for expressing it and having emotions. So as an adult, it doesn't feel safe to face something head-on that's bothering them, and it can come out later on as passive-aggressive jabs. Common trait number 8 that is a big North Star that you're talking with a dismissive avoidant is that the tone and topics of your conversations are quite overarchingly intellectual over emotional. Dismissive avoidants, since they are quite often not comfortable with overly emotional or vulnerable topics, will use intellectual conversation as a strategy to facilitate relationships. They really tend to value people that they're able to have intellectual conversations with. Well, I hope that this video has been helpful or interesting to you, and if it has, please give it a like and share, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that bell at the top so that you don't miss any future videos. As always, thanks for being here. Take care.